hardheads, hardcore art nuts. It's your half-assed reporter, James Comm, the guy on the bike. And today, we got a special treat for you. We're going to run in minus space. Yeah, and today I've got the distinct pleasure of introducing you viewers to Leslie Roberts. We're going to take a look at her show. I'm just going to kind of walk around quickly and sweep the installation so people get an idea of what the work looks like. Come with me, Leslie. Let's start at the beginning.
I'm wondering if you can see much from.
I'm going to be getting over for close-ups as we talk. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about this latest body of work? Titled FYEO, which means for your eyes only. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct. It's also the title of one of my paintings. Some of the paintings are collections of acronyms and abbreviations, or their texts are. And
well, I'm going to start off and ask you a question about the use of text. Do you consider any of this having any relationship to poetry? Have you thought about that?
Having a relationship to poetry, and I think it is not poetry.
It's not poetry.
I think it has poetic elements, but it's collected. It's not worked over the way that if it were poetry. You know, it's something that is.
Let's keep moving down the line here.
It's part of the painting, but.
Okay, so this is titled Drawing Instructions.
Yeah.
Now, most of these pieces are on panel.
These are on panel. The work here is all paintings, and it came out of years of making mostly drawings on graph paper, and a couple of years ago, very much wanting to make paintings, but wanting them to have the same kind of intensity and the use of text that I did in my drawings, and writing on paper just seemed easy and natural, but finding a way, honestly, just to find a painting format of sorts that felt like the right vehicle for the same kind of work with text that's mostly found language translated into geometric structures. Started working on not just panels, but thin panels, and didn't really quite think of it this way at the time, but I think that they're almost like as close to a page as they can be and still be a painting. You know, they're thick enough to be a painting,
no,
but thinner than your average
yes,
painting.
I was actually,
they have white margins.
I came by the gallery the other night and I looked through the windows, and from a distance I was thinking that these pieces almost made me think of illuminated manuscripts. You know, the way they're laid out. You've got the
That is absolutely something I think about.
the painted part here, and then the
text part that you can't necessarily read, or not that easily. But if you're looking at an illuminated manuscript, you don't think.
Glad to be of
Don't
help.
want the text in. Check for inhalation injury. The title is always. So always glad to be of help. Always check for inhalation injury. So it's room for dessert on my mind.
So where did you pick up your little phrases that you're collecting there?
Anywhere and everywhere. Just labels, boxes, email.
Anything that fits.
Anything. Well, whatever's around.
Let's look at these red ones.
Quite a few bits and pieces come from things like EULAs and user licensing agreements, contracts, and things that are on your airline tickets where, like, I feel like a lot of this is bits of language that is not, that's sort of the extra scraps, or the parts that we don't bother to read.
Well, in that way, that does make me think of poetry, maybe not high classical poetry, but maybe something that the Beats might have used, or Brian Geisen, some of those people.
Sure,
This is titled Questions.
And questions. Treater, trader, they come from headlines, they come from, look, honestly, I look around and I find stuff.
And you make notes, and you have notebooks of this that you keep, or?
These days I take a lot of notes on my iPad. actually.
Ah,
And it has occurred to me that these paintings are a little bit of the structure, size of tablets, real old-fashioned ones and electronic ones, but the one that you were looking at called drawing instructions, I
yes.
collected from my own notes on drawing. And
Ah.
to me it was a little, I started to feel like that was an interesting irony that the text would not end up in this painting. I mean, following the instructions in the text would not produce the painting. But maybe these are different ways that one might say maybe.
You know, the other thing I was thinking about is actually the colors that you're using and the various types of coding, the kind of the differences from piece to piece and how you're going from the text to the design. For example, in this example, we've got maybe, which is geometric forms, but in this one we've got more linear elements.
Right, so they're all collections of elements or divisions of spaces, but right, sometimes they might be marks. Here they're squares, they're underlayer of squares divided by triangles in different directions.
And this
and
one we've
here
got
they're linear shapes that overlap. So
shapes, circles,
so
triangles,
they're
lines.
Not, they're the way they're constructed, the way that they go from here's the text that determines how many of these I put where. That general process is consistent throughout, but the look of the paintings can vary, as you just said, and the one over at the far end over there has dots, which is like, I haven't done that in a while.
We're going to get to that one.
Right, but it's really, it's
So-
great to be able to put a whole lot of them up and have all those different types of paintings together.
This is titled G to A to F and back.
That's things written down, things that I read on the subway ride. Wet paint, alienation, exit Clinton Avenue, call Ticketmaster, do not hold door.
Now,
But when you ask about poetry, I think about it, but I feel like this is a little bit neither fish nor fowl. It's like an illuminated manuscript. The text is part of it. I don't know that it's not meant to just only exist on its own. And for a while I used to feel awkward about this is just seems very weird that I have paintings with writing in them. And then I guess I kind of eventually decided I guess maybe if anything is good about them, then maybe that is what it is.
well, that's one of the things. As we were saying, in certain ways, there is a different kind of coding in the pieces. You were talking about linear versus geometric forms. This one has got more diagonal forms.
Yeah.
Is this the largest piece in the show?
You're right.
Assurances.
And I think it's one of the oldest ones from 2014, and I think it took such a hell of a long time.
Well, that's what I was
felt
going
we don't need to get that big.
That's what I was getting to is how much time would you take to kind of decide on a new kind of coding and then to go through the process of making the painting, collecting the words?
Well, mostly I feel it out as I go. I mean, I make one and then I make another one that's sort of a variant on that, and then often, we haven't looked at one yet, but there are some that have smaller grid codes.
Yes, little notations on the side.
There's one down at the end there where in those, I feel like I am weirdly a little bit more free in those little small throwaway grids. They use the same color, but I'm experimenting with some different system of, marks instead of triangles or whatever it might be. But I started to realize that often I get my idea for the next painting from the thing that I put at the bottom of the other painting as just let's just see what we can do.
Kind of the ideas that are
Like the notebook.
born out of the work that you're doing when you get a little tired of working on the big piece. You got some ideas that are floating around you don't want to lose.
That, or I feel like, over and over, and as an artist, you're realizing that the things that you're doing that you don't even notice that you're doing, sometimes are the things that you need to take note of.
Yeah, those are valuable little nuggets that you should keep. Right. So this is just FYEO, and This is also an interesting piece because you're only using
Only red.
red and black
Yes,
on a
that
white
is
ground.
So, prior to making these paintings, I don't know that I ever made paintings prior to this body of work that had any white in them whatsoever. I don't think I've ever made a painting that only was red and black. I've made a couple more that are not hanging here right now. I can't explain that to you.
Well, actually, I kind of like the restraint, and
It just
made me think
I
of.
kind of felt like, can I really keep going and really just stay with red and black? Okay.
Well, these are all kind of the questions that code breakers and various other people that deal with kind of translating information from one means to another have to deal with all the time.
How so?
Well,
Can you only need? Can we only use?
yes, how few. Well, I was reading a piece about political maps, and someone was saying that you could do a political map of the entire world and only use 4 colors, and that somehow
right.
by using those in the right way, that would show you exactly. Didn't matter how many spaces you had to divide. If you had 4 colors, you could do it with that number of colors.
That's a topology question, right?
Something like that.
Right. No, that's a mathematical puzzle, I think.
Yes.
Exactly how many colors do you need? What is the minimum? Something,
It's
it is
just
something like
probability.
that. But there's some of that. But right, like kind of seeing how things can fit together. What happens when they start layering? In terms of working out problems of sorts, or right, like how many more kinds of marks could fit into this painting, and but
Different ways of filling the
these are maps
space.
in a different sense. I mean, you could say that
Yes.
these are very much maps of the text, very literally.
But the amazing thing for me is that even if you didn't know anything about the texts or the codes or anything, you could simply look at the design and appreciate them as it just totally abstract paintings. This is nice the way you've kind of gotten your text laid out in a different way.
I know, shocking, not a square, but and then this is one where for me this is like very spare. I made a few like this.
And again, here we are, we're going back to a different kind of code where it's mostly just linear. Now, I was going to ask you, so how long would you work on one of the major pieces, just as far as time goes?
I think when I've been at residency, where I totally have as much time as I want, I've been able to make maybe as much as, and when I'm really, I felt I had a sabbatical this past year, and I really was thrilled to make use of it. I think, maybe at a residency I could make more than one a week, but.
That's sitting down for like 8 hours a day, or?
I don't know, maybe, yes.
2 or 3 hours, 4 or 6 hours.
You can do a few hours, then go have dinner and come back.
Walk in the woods.
I don't clock myself, but, there's an awful lot of time with all of them spent kind of just looking at them and working on another one and just thinking, does it need more? Like this, maybe it was a start, and then I decided that's what I made while I was in Rome, so that's enough. But this kind of network led to some of the other paintings.
That's what you're talking about, the ideas that are sort of
Right.
start one thing and end up somewhere else.
And I would say that some of the structure here, when I was in Rome, I was looking at cosmetesque floors, mosaics,
Okay.
which are, floors that have as many kinds of geometric structures as you could imagine. Each panel has its own, and while these are structures that accrue, I'm not reproducing some exact quilt pattern or tile pattern. I think there's something in here of thinking about those cosmetesque floors and those little tiny triangles inside larger triangles. I feel like I thought a lot about triangles this year.
That's good.
I feel like I backed it.
But not in this one.
Not in this one.
We're dealing with the dots, and here again we've got another kind of code that you're using.
Well, once again, it's transferring color based according to the text. Here's the color of a dot, A, went there. Hey, another one went there, and etc. This goes back and forth. So it's placing marks or divisions inside a grid. These are just different marks.
And just as far as you're thinking about abstract painting and systems, how does that go? I mean, do you see yourself as being related to someone like Agnes Martin or some of the other kind of more minimalist painters, or
I love Agnes Martin.
Alfred
Honestly,
Jensen, I know, is one of your favorites?
Alfred Jensen, yes, but I feel like in some ways very different, and that
Sure.
I have no illusion. The text I'm putting here that come from subway signs and, junk mail, I am not recording the secrets of the ancients. I am definitely not under that illusion. But I love Alfred Jensen, but he's someone that I sort of discovered when I started making drawings like this. Suddenly his work was amazing. But actually, I love Agnes Martin, but I think someone that comes to mind more often is Annie Albers.
Annie Albers.
Textiles come to mind. The painting on the right down at the end, I'm thinking very much about some of her work where it's just, all it is triangles. And I feel like I backed into becoming a geometric painter. Not anything when I was a young artist in grad school I would have thought. That was regarded as just so formal and,
Well, that's kind
was
of
such a
like
bad word.
Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. So, you know what, Leslie?
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to
Thanks.
us. I'm going to just, I'll sweep around here one more time so people get an idea of what the installation looks like. And the title of the show is
FYEO.
For Your Eyes Only. Here at Minus Space on Main Street in Dumbo. Thanks, Matthew Delegate. And as always, thank you, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.